nominate Honorable Tajudeen Abbas.
I so second.
I rise to humbly accept the nomination.
Is hereby declared the winner and returned elected as the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Today is that your voice matters.
Speaker Abbas Tajudeen holds town hall meeting on policies and programs of President Tinubu. Promises prompt response to resolutions.
Central Bank of Nigeria from time to time to be reviewing their policies.
And lawmakers hold emergency session. Increase on Ways and Means Bill top on the agenda. It's good to be with you again on a fresh package of House Tickets, your weekly window into the legislative activities of the House of Representatives, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Last week, the House reconvened briefly from its annual summer recess in order to increase the advance to government through Ways and Means, as well as to reconsider the 2024 Appropriation Act. The story forms part of our reports in this package. Also, in a bid to assure Nigerian youth in the face of the economic hardship, Speaker Abbas Tajudeen has organized a one-day town hall meeting during which he promised that their grievances will be addressed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a report of which will bring you in the course of our program alongside other committee activities. Let's meet again after this short time out for the full program. Please stay tuned.
Hi, Abbas Tajudeen. The House will pay priority attention to participatory budgeting process and delivery, law reform, electoral reform, women's participation and inclusion in governance, among others.
Welcome back. We begin with highlights of activities during the one-day brief plenary session on Wednesday, 31st July 2024. The details of the proceedings are compiled and presented from our studios.
On Wednesday, 31st July 2024, the Chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business, Representative Francis Ejirogene Waive, moved a motion for the rescission of the House decision due to some issues found during the cleaning up of the 2024 Appropriation Act.
The Appropriations Act Amendment Bill 2024 was passed on Tuesday, 23rd July 2024. Also notes that in the course of cleaning the bill, the Directorate of Legal Services observed some legal issues that require reconsideration. Aware that clauses 13 and 14 of the bill, as well as the long title and explanatory memorandum, need to be amended to reflect the intent of the Appropriation Act, cognizance of the need to rescind the House decision of the long title, explanatory memorandum, and clauses 13 and 14 of the bill, the House resolves to rescind the decision on the long title, explanatory memorandum, and clauses 13 and 14 of the bill, and commit same provision to the Committee of Supply for reconsideration.
The motion was voted on, adopted, and recommitted to the Committee on Supply.
The bill was committed to the Committee on Supply on Wednesday, 31st July 2024, and therefore call on the leader to move for its consideration.
To expedite action, the House dissolved into the Committee of Supply to consider the report. The session was presided by the Speaker, Abbas Tajudeen. The bill, titled A Bill for an Act to Repeal the Appropriation Act 2024 and enact the Appropriation Act 2024 to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 35,5,536,770,000 218 naira only for the year ending 31st December 2024 was expeditiously considered at the Committee of Supply.
Can you move for the consideration?
In summary, the lawmakers voted on and approved clauses 13 and 14 and reverted back to plenary and adopted the report of the Committee of Supply following a motion moved by the Chief Whip, Representative Bello Usman Kumo.
We approve clauses 13 and 14, explanatory memorandum, and the long title of the bill. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it.
Still on the same day, the House also considered a report seeking to raise the Ways and Means cash advances from 5% to 10% in the Committee of the Whole. The session was chaired by the Deputy Speaker Benjamin Okezie Kalu. The bill was titled, A Bill for an Act to Amend the Central Bank of Nigeria Act to increase the Central Bank of Nigeria's total advances to the federal government from 5% to a maximum of 15% and for related matters.
Honorable members will recall that the bill was committed to the Committee of the Whole on Thursday, 18 July 2024. The leader will move for its consideration.
Do consider a bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Nigeria Act to increase the Central Bank of Nigeria's total advances to the federal government from 5% to a maximum of 15%, and for related matters, I so move.
The Chief Whip, Representative Bello Usman Kumo, gave a synopsis of the bill.
The Central Bank of Nigeria from time to time to be reviewing their policies to enhance the economy. It is on this note that I implore my colleagues to kindly and gratuitously consider a report and approve this report.
Part of what we have been talking about is the issues of accountability and then the issues of transparency. Allowing the central bank to advance 15% of the entire budget will not only erode our own powers as an assembly, but it will give a lot of latitude for discretion, which is not too good for us. And that's why I even think that we should reduce from the 5% that we presently have to 2%, which will make the government more accountable, more prudent in management.
The matter of transparency, of course, the committees have a responsibility to look at the books. It's not about bringing down the rate that will bring transparency. No, I don't think so.
Given our present realities, the 5% is certainly not enough to support whatever objective and the budget the government set out to achieve. So I think if we look at it holistically and we appreciate where the country is, 50% I think should be what we should be looking at this material point in time. So the point is that 15% it's in order.
Is if we can't get to that 15%, Mr. Speaker, may I appeal to this Honorable House to see how well we can make do and manage with 10%. That will put even the managers of the economy on the side of caution, not for us to be thinking that since we have something to fall back on, we will not ginger efficiently and effectively our sources of revenue into the country.
We didn't do our work critically, and for us to be safe, MFLS matter have not been finished. We are not yet going to the conclusion of that. So to manage this economy and to have good accountability, it's better we stop at 10% rather than the 15%. That will give us a good outlook and a good face before the public and even in doing our own oversight.
However, the opposition parties staged a walkout during the session after the amendment proposed by the minority leader, Representative Kingsley Chinda, that the Ways and Means be reduced to 2% was rejected.
Approve clause 1, clause 2 as
This is very unruly.
The report is hereby adopted as a working instrument of the House.
Standing on the high.
Please.
Chief Whip.
In summary, the lawmakers voted and approved clauses 1 and 3, amended and approved clause 2. The House then reverted to plenary and adopted the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
And expeditiously, the executive bills titled A Bill for an Act to Repeal the Appropriation Act 2024 and enact the Appropriation Act 2024 to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 35,55,536,770,218 naira only for the year ending 31st December 2024, and a bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Nigeria Act to increase the Central Bank of Nigeria's total advances to the federal government from 5% to a maximum of 15%, and for related matters, were read the third time and passed.
Being read third time and passed.
Thanks for still being there, and if you're just tuning in, the program is House Ticket, a weekly update of activities of lawmakers from the House of Representatives, Federal Republic of Nigeria. In the first segment of the program, we brought you a report of the one-day brief plenary proceedings of your lawmakers at the Green Chambers. Moving on, Speaker of the House, Right Honorable Abbas Tajudeen, has assured youth in the country that all the grievances they have expressed over the past weeks and months will be addressed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Right Honorable Abbas stated this in his keynote address at a one-day town hall meeting organized by the House on Wednesday, 31st July 2024, to have an opportunity to interface with various youth groups and to explain the current administration's policies and plans for the country, while promising to refer the resolutions of the meeting to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for consideration and possible resolutions. He also pledged to ensure that such engagement will be held twice yearly.
Addressing you today is one of the most important functions I've ever undertaken as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. As a father, I'm driven by a desire to leave a better Nigeria for my children and their children. It is also my dream for all of you here. Our purpose today is not to intimidate, entice, buy off, or stimulate or constitutionally enshrined powers of free expression. Rather, it is to create a formal avenue of regular engagement, ensuring that your voices are heard at the highest level of government. My message to you today is that your voice matters, and we are listening.
The Speaker then promised the youths that, henceforth, the House will create 4 senior legislative aid slots for youth groups to serve as a link between the House and the Nigerian youth, adding that meaningful reform often requires time and consensus, particularly for issues embedded in statutory and constitutional frameworks. He therefore urged all stakeholders to work together on a sustained, step-by-step basis to address such challenges and achieve a better Nigeria.
I urge you, our youth, to actively participate in the democratic process. Walk through the National Assembly and push for reforms. The House is the most representative assembly in Nigeria, representing 360 federal constituencies. We represent every Nigerian, young and old. You have elected us to serve you and must trust us to do the job together.
On his part, the Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Benjamin Okieze-Kalu, identified with the youth, stressing that the federal government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is addressing their plight, while acknowledging that they have a constitutional right to protest. The Deputy Speaker advised that it is not the best option for them in pressing home their demands from the government. Earlier in his welcome address, the Chairman House Committee on Youth Development, Representative Martins Etim Essin, while highlighting the purpose of the interface, said it is essential that the youth understand the role of the legislature in shaping the policies and laws that govern the nation.
This meeting also aims to enable us pinpoint the exact needs and potential of the Nigerian youth, ensuring that our legislative actions are tailored to support and empower them effectively. In the course of today's meeting, we will also consider a framework for regular engagement between the National Assembly and youth groups in the country, as continuous dialogue is required to ensure that your voices are heard in our legislative processes.
The representatives of the youth groups had the opportunity to air their views, calling for urgent action on the part of the government.
Our government must please do its best to make the work of the president come out and be proactive rather than reactionary. Am I speaking your mind, young people? But let me assure you, let me assure you, my brothers and my friends, that as much as we are angry, we want a Nigeria that works. We want a country where we feel we can call home, where we comfortably as young people do not get harassed by police because we have dreadlocks, where we don't have to struggle, but be assured that the man at the wheel, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the President and Commander-in-Chief, is here because of you.
From the Federal Executive Council, where the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Muhammad Ali Pate, as well as the Minister of Youth Development, Dr. Jamila Bio, and the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Nkiruka Uzoka Anite, who spoke on the people-oriented programs and policies of the Tinubu administration.
The Federal Executive Council, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in March, approved the 30% youth quota in government. Advancing from the Not Too Young to Run Act, we're advocating for a 30% youth quota in government positions, a policy endorsed by the Federal Executive Council. This initiative aims to ensure that young Nigerians have a substantial role in decision-making processes. We're working with the National Assembly to legislate this quota into an act of parliament.
For us in health, we focus on the poorest and most vulnerable, our mothers. Everyone here has a mother. Let them survive. That's why we're expanding primary health care. More than 8,800 of them reached. More than 2 million Nigerians in the last 1 year access health care through the Vulnerable Groups Fund, in addition to the others who are insured.
It's going to take a while before we begin to see the impact of these major reforms, major changes, and the investments coming in. In my own ministry, we also went out to support the president. We've been able to actually get a lot of investors, and we found out that despite the economic challenges that we are going through, a number of countries are still willing to come in to invest in Nigeria. When they come to invest, they create jobs.
The town hall meeting was supported by some development partners, Yaga Africa, Conrad Adenauer Stiftung, and the European Union, as well as the clerk to the National Assembly. Also in attendance were leaders and members of several national youth-based civil society, social, cultural, politics and academic groups, including the National Association of Nigerian Students.
Before this honorable committee shall be the truth.
Moving on, the House Committee on Public Assets on Tuesday, 30th July 2024, queried the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, Murphy, for spending money from the budget for its operations without authorization. Chairman of the committee, Representative Ademorin Kuye, while stating the purpose of the investigation, recalled that in December 2023, the committee was mandated by the House to investigate the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, as well as the Institute of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, and to embark on a comprehensive enumeration and valuation of all public assets and provide a detailed inventory of the assets registered that will be available to the public.
You'll recall that after the resolution was passed last year, we are talking of 7 months ago now, we had the first meeting with Murphy around February, where the MD was there to tell us the work plan and all of that. We have therefore given them this long group between February and now for them to come and tell us how far they have gone with their work.
In his presentation, the Chief Executive Officer, Murphy Armstrong Takan, stated that they have made significant progress, adding that the corporate asset entity has already been incorporated and they publish their financial statements on a regular basis, which in turn is being audited. He speaks further on the progress made so far by the ministry.
At the moment, we've started work on looking at the financial statements for 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Okay.
And the next thing is that a lot of those numbers have already been tallied, and then we're going to get one of the big four firms to give us an opinion on those financial statements. That will have a consolidated financial statement on the corporate assets. That work is ongoing at the moment. The plan is to be able to publish that for the entities that have audited financial statements. That way, we can publicly know the holdings we have in each of these corporate assets that have also been audited.
Some members of the committee expressed disappointment with the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, Murphy, for failing to live up to expectations.
In March, the committee wrote a letter to your agency on the sales of federal government assets to fund the budget. My question, what is the status of the highlighted assets that were earmarked for sale?
If you recall, the last administration actually started a process for sale of those, but that process wasn't completed, and they were not sold, and it's still ongoing, still with NCP. As you know, nothing could happen until the board of Niger Delta was reconstituted, which was done recently. So those 5 major power plants that are under, and that's the NIPP under Niger Delta, are still government's properties until that process is completed, or if the government decides to proceed with that, they are still under Niger Delta Power Holding Company. In terms of Yola Disco is also one of those that the initial private sector buyers left under the guise of force majeure, and then government had to pay them back and then took over the asset. But there's been a process that has been started to sell the 60% to private investors at the moment.
Have you started work on these assets being enumerated and listed in the platform? Because your director said you've already started. And here, before you came, he said you're having problems getting these properties from MDAs.
In the meantime, what we're doing is to make sure we have a repository of those different asset classes from the various MDAs that we can work with to get, so that when we're now ready to give it to the valuers, we're giving them specific assets for them to start with, rather than just giving them an open-ended check that go and look for it. That doesn't make any sense, because for them to even determine how much it's going to cost to do the valuation, they need to have gotten some preliminary information, which is what we're gathering at the moment, which is why I just talked about the issue of Ministry of Power, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, and then I also talked about Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That is the exercise to get that basic information.
Chairman of the committee, Representative Ademorin Kuye, in his ruling, demanded for various documents from the agency on the assets it was managing, which he says should be submitted to the committee within 7 days. Hope you have been updated on the workings of the House of Representatives in recent times. Let us meet again on this station for more enlightenment on the activities of our lawmakers in the House of Representatives, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Stay safe and have a lovely time ahead.